joining the first edition of Ask Anjaan. And today we want to explore what is yoga. I hand it over to Shruti now.
Thank you so much, Anjaan. Hello, and thank you to everyone who is watching today. So, I am Shruti, and firstly, I'll introduce Anjaan, who is a yoga teacher, a meditation guide, a Tantra mentor, Kundalini massage therapist, a Shakti hands healer, a Reiki grandmaster, a martial arts coach, and a Zen facilitator. And after all of that, I believe there's still more that he can offer. So, I'm so happy to be speaking to him today. I'm Shruti. I am a yoga practitioner. I work in financial services, and yoga and spirituality has become a big part of my lifestyle. And having connected with Anjan, we are here to talk to you about various topics. And today we'd like to start with yoga. So 10 years ago, I started practicing yoga, and my entire life has been full of me asking questions. So, whatever I'm doing in life, I love to find out more. It's the way I learn. And through these sessions, we would love to really cover lots of different topics. But my role here is to ask Anjan questions because he has a wealth of knowledge and experience. And I would love to tap into that really to develop my own understanding and to help others. As within the spiritual world, I feel that there is a lot of myth busting that's required, there's a lot of confusion, and there are many people that don't know where to even begin. So we are here to explore that, and we would love to hear from you with your questions. So not only will I be asking questions, but I would love to get some more questions in as well that I can ask Anjan so he can answer them.
Thank you, Shruti, for such a sweet introduction. So many labels, so many identities, which I don't hold any claim of, but I'm happy I'm able to impact and influence people for them to be able to live lives that are more fulfilling and more happy. If you're watching this later, feel free to leave your questions as a comment on this YouTube video so that we can explore your questions in the next episodes of Ask Anjan. So let's start. What's the first question of the first episode that you have for me?
What is yoga? I feel we do have to begin with this.
I think this is one question which we can have 10 episodes on.
Yes.
So maybe we start with what yoga is not.
Okay.
This is I might be treading on some toes as I say this. Yoga is definitely not something you do. If you're still doing, it can't be yoga. Yoga is the science or technology through which you reach a state of beingness. You can do so many things to reach that, including postures, which is called asana, including hyperfocus, which is called dhyana, including withdrawal of looking within of your sensory perception, which is called dharana, and so on and so forth. Japa, tapa, mantra, tantra, yantra. So many different tools and techniques in the lineages itself. But even in the non lineages, you can reach yoga through dancing, through singing, through poetry, through making love, through pottery, through gardening, through cooking, through farming.
Wow. Okay, so that sounds very broad. There are so
That's why I
many
said,
different
to
elements.
answer your question, will take at least 10 episodes.
This makes sense. So, following that, why is it then that most yoga teachers or instructors seem to only be teaching the asana based yoga? I haven't personally come across a lot of those other streams that you mentioned.
So they're not really streams. The perception that yoga is only asana is created because of the way we are as beings. What we see, we easily understand. What we can't see has a layer of depth to it, therefore, it's a bit more difficult to comprehend. So you can see the body, so you work with the body. When I say this word mind, can you even picture it? When I say the word heart, or spirit, or soul, or consciousness, or awareness, or if I go even deeper into concepts from Advaita, which is non duality, concepts of experiencer, or observer. Now, when we talk about these conceptual things, you can't really fathom it unless you've fathomed a lot of deep internal work. And that's why many yoga practitioners around the world think yoga is only physical. And nothing wrong with that, because it's important to keep the body healthy, it's important to keep the body flexible and nimble and light and joyful. But to limit yoga to just the body is huge misappropriation.
This makes a lot of sense. So, this is where the word misappropriation gets interesting. And it is something that is talked about a lot. And I've definitely heard many people saying it's an ancient practice, it comes from India. So, unless you've learnt it from India, you're not really teaching yoga, you're not really practicing it, you don't really know what yoga is. What are your thoughts on that? And do you have to have studied it in India? Do you have to have come from there to actually be practicing the real yoga technique?
Again, you'll get me into trouble with your questions, but India exists only from 1947, when the British colonials left that area. Before that, it was not even called India, it was called Hindustan. And before that, it was called the Indus Valley Civilization, around the Indus River. See, Indus River, Indus Valley Civilization, India, Hinduism, Hindus, Indus, Hindus. It's all the same, the word that's been transformed into many different um, languages. And even in ancient Persian, it's called the Hind Kush civilization. So Kush can also mean a great land of grass, Kusha grass. So Hind Kush is a civilization around the Indus River. So to claim that yoga belongs to India is pretty cheeky, because India is only 40 since 1947, right? But to say there were beings who understood the essence of going within in this region in the world and codified it into different systems through oral tradition and textual traditions is more appropriate. But today, with the internet and with AI and chat GPT, with so much access to knowledge, you're not restricted by geography to go within. You never were restricted by geography, but maybe to find a teacher or a practitioner who's spent years and has lineages of centuries who has given this kind of thought. Also, you must understand that many ancient civilizations had their own form of going within, whether it's the Chinese civilization, the Egyptian civilization, all the South American civilizations, the African civilizations. All other civilizations, other than these ancient ones, are pretty new. When you say Roman, when you say Greek, when you say the new, they're all new civilizations. But Egyptian, Sumerian, Mesopotamian, Indus Valley, Chinese, really ancient civilizations. So a lot of knowledge has been lost. These are called wisdom traditions. Fortunately or unfortunately, in the subcontinent, which is present day India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and a bunch of other countries, in the subcontinent, this knowledge is still preserved. And the knowledge has been transmitted from teacher to student, teacher to student, teacher to student in a system called Gurukul. So, this preservation of knowledge makes this region more special. I'm sure in the South American culture also it's preserved. Now it's opening out. We see so many non-South American shamans coming out. African culture is not moved out. Egyptian culture has kind of got lost in between. Nobody really knows the connecting. There's an ancient Egyptian yoga called Kemetic yoga, which the pharaohs were practicing. And going with generally accepted archaeological theories on the origin of mankind, if all humans came from Africa, which is what modern day historians and archaeologists and dinosaur diggers are saying, all humans came from Africa, it would also make sense that yoga also came from Africa. And so to claim it came from India is a bit ridiculous and childish. It's like my pencil is better than your pencil box or something like that. And if you go to Africa, even today, there's tribes which practice asana, which practice going within. Many of their gods are similar to the deities practiced in the Hindu culture. Shiva's other name is Shankara. Shankara can also mean Shangokara. Shango is a famous African god, if I'm not wrong. Kara means the dark color. So Shankara could have been Shangokara, and his wife might have been the Queen of Sheba. You get it? Queen of Sheba. So we don't know, honestly. Uh, yes, it is ancient, but it's very relevant to modern day life. So I would recommend people not to worry about where it came from. Instead, to focus on where it can take you.
Beautiful. I really like that. So, just in your explanation there, you touched upon some Hindu deities. So, this is interesting. Is yoga therefore a religious practice? And could it potentially go against a different religion if someone is practicing it and isn't a Hindu?
So, though I said Hindu deities, Hinduism itself is only a coinage which is 300 years old. In essence, the practice is called Sanatana Dharma. Dharma means the way of being, Sanatana means for all humanity. So the deities or the energies which are consecrated with a name, because like I said, unless you give a word to the emotion, say, of love, you will not be able to really articulate love. So similarly, every energy was given a name and a form so that we're able to articulate it. This was the concept in Sanatana Dharma. Now, Sanatana Dharma has six philosophies, Shat Darshana. Only one of the philosophies is yoga. Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Samkhya, Yoga, Advaita, Mimamsa, Purva Mimamsa, Uttara Mimamsa. All of these exist. Yoga is only one of the streams of thought, and Darshana means to see. That's the difference between Eastern philosophy and Western philosophy. Like you have this statue, right, of the thinking man. So, Western philosophy, love of knowledge, philosophia, or beauty of knowledge, or love of the beauty of knowledge. Whereas darshana means to see. So, Western philosophy is pretty much thinking, Eastern philosophy is pretty much seeing, not with your eyes, but in an experiential way. So when these yogis or great sages or sadhus or wise men sat down in stillness, looked within, and they saw. When they saw, they wrote it down and then they shared. Then this got passed on. Say, okay, let's call this energy Shiva. Let's call this energy Ganesha. Let's call this energy Lakshmi. Of course, these are also Hindu deities. Surprise. But these are also universal concepts. So, if you want to appropriate it and make it a religion, you can. But if you want to keep it neutral and understand that these are forces of energy that operate on this planet and make it completely non religious, make it completely secular, not aligned to any belief system, that is in fact the true teaching of yoga, is to discard all beliefs or non-beliefs, all raga and dvesha, right? So these are your afflictions and things you don't like. So things you like and things you don't like. These are all constructs, part of a word called maya, illusion. So yoga helps you to go from avidya, a state of not knowledge, to vidya, a state of knowledge. And what is the knowledge? The knowledge is that every single affliction or distraction, every single like or dislike you have is very relative only to you. So don't identify it or identify with it. Go beyond that identification. And that is the essence of yoga when it says merging. This is probably what it means. One of the meanings of yoga is union or merging, merging with the truth.
Nice. Amazing. And that really reminded me of meditation as well, because through Vipassana meditation, I've really explored this concept of letting go of attachments, letting go of that illusion, really seeing the truth. So, how does meditation link to yoga? Is meditation yoga? How do we explore these two differently? Are they different?
You can call it whatever you want, right? At the end of the day, what is the essence? So, in one of the texts, yoga is explained as a moksha shastra. Moksha, for you know, translation purposes, liberation. Shastra, the science or the technology or the texts. What are you actually getting liberated from? This is the important question. So, whether you call it yoga or meditation, the English word is also a verb, it's also a state, right? Whereas in Sanskrit, you have specific words for it. You have dhyana, dharana, japa, tapa, so many samadhi, abhyasa, tapasya, so many things you have. And each of these are different states. So, to use the word meditation as a broad thing is to reach a state where you're not doing anything. And thereby, that is also the definition of yoga that we started with. So, these can be used interchangeably as long as you understand it's a state we're talking about. If you're talking about the verb, the act of doing something, then it's different. And in general, you can approach it through two systems of thought. The one system of thought is through your body, you go within. The other system of thought is from within, you come to your body. So both the approaches help in this mergingness to go beyond both the body and the mind.
Nice. Okay, thank you. So you just mentioned a lot of different terms, many that I have heard, but I have not memorized them. I could not tell you what they all are. Having done this now for 10 years, am I not studying enough? Do I need to research more? Is there more that I need to do this authentically?
So there is, see, in the yoga marga, the path of yoga, there are four commonly accepted sub margas or path: Jnana yoga, bhakti yoga, karma yoga, raja yoga. Jnana yoga, jnana means knowledge, is the path of accumulating and sharing knowledge. Bhakti yoga is the path of devotion and faith and surrendering to a higher power than you. Karma Yoga is the path of action and service and gratitude and putting in effort. Raja Yoga is Patanjali's Yoga Sutra path, which is eightfold path that the great sage Patanjali wrote in his book Yoga Sutras, which are aphorisms on how you can find moksha, liberation. And these include an 8-step path of yama, niyama, dhyana, dharana, pranayama, asana, dhyana, dharana, samadhi. So you can choose all four or any. Invariably, and eventually, you will have all four in the yoga marga. Now, if your jnana curiosity is expanding, then accumulate knowledge. But have a solid reason. If you're going to teach, if you're going to share, if you have to give a talk, if you have to answer some questions on a YouTube video, then increase your jnana. We have the ability to articulate it, but it's not needed for reaching moksha. Any of these paths can reach there. I also know you go to a lot of kirtans. That's the bhakti part, bhakti marga, the bhakti path, which is basically devotion and faith and surrendering to something higher. So there is no I must or I must not. The beauty in yoga is you do what suits your disposition. But before that, find out what is your disposition. So, like my friend Manish Paul says, you are the experiment and you are the experimenter. So, in yoga, which is why I'm not really against beer yoga and goat yoga and wine yoga and eye yoga and face yoga and nose yoga. That is that person's level of discovery of themselves. At the end of the day, we are here to discover more about what is this entire being. What is this body? What is this mind? What is this spirit? What is this thing we call the soul? Does it even exist? And understanding things like purpose. What are we here for? Where were we before we came here? Where will we go from here? So, the discovery of all of this is yoga. And a beautiful way that my teacher put it for me is that everything that a human does in life is external, is an experience. Yoga is the only science that is internal. So you must have heard this: yoga is working in and not working out. What does it really mean? What it means is any activity you do is an expression of you, right? which is, say, you paint, it's an expression of you. It's how you express an experiential feeling. When you dance, when you sing, when you do any activity, it's an expression of you. Yoga is the only one that's not external. Yoga goes within and changes the essence of who you are, and thereby changing the expression of who you are, and thereby making it an expression of yoga. Then you no longer do yoga, you are in yoga. And today, science confirms this. They're talking about neuroplasticity, where you can change your genetic structure. They're talking about biomodification. They're talking about bacterial modification in your gut, skin, hair. Anything inside can be modified today. Yoga is the science of how you can create these changes from within at the genetic level, at the thought level, at the feeling level, at the emotional level, and obviously at the body level. And this transformation automatically transforms your experience of life.
Incredible. I love that. I love that concept of going within, which is what I really feel practicing yoga. It really is that. And it's not always pleasant. This is another thing. So, a lot of people say to me, this is why you're so relaxed, you're so calm, you practice yoga, you feel good after a session. Now, whilst I do in many ways, I find it difficult when I'm sitting through postures. I feel pain. Sometimes I cry, I'm releasing. Is yoga supposed to feel good? Am I doing it wrong? Or is it fine that I'm in pain? Are there any rules around this?
See, there's schools of thought that say no pain, no gain. Because I also practice Tantra and not just yoga, I'm of the opinion all pleasure, all gain. To me, it seems a bit ridiculous that you would spend your life in suffering to learn how to get rid of suffering. Right? See the irony there? Oh, I'm going to suffer so much to learn how to get rid of suffering. That just sounds ridiculous to me. So you have to figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And if what works for you gives you a bit of pain, then observe. Is it a pain that's helping me grow? Is it a pain that's making me decay? If it's a pain that's helping you grow, then have the resilience to see through that. If it's a pain that's making you decay, then discard that practice. So, to answer your question, is yoga pleasant or unpleasant? Neither. The decision whether a thought that comes to you is pleasant or unpleasant has nothing to do with yoga. Yoga is therefore not a journey or a destination. It is just a mechanism through which you can enjoy the journey so that you don't worry about the destination. So the minute you start thinking, oh, through yoga I should always feel calm, that's not the job of yoga. It's your job to feel calm, whether or not you have yoga. Oh, through yoga, I need to find peace. That's not the job of yoga. That's your job to find peace, whether or not you have yoga. Many people are peaceful and calm and they've never heard the word yoga. In fact, they are in yoga already without knowing that word. Just because they don't know the word yoga doesn't mean they're not in yoga. And again, going back to what is being in yoga, it is creating this awareness of who you are in its essence, the understanding and the experiencing of the experiencer. You see where I'm going with this? This is Advaita philosophy or non duality, where right now we're all existing as the observed. Then there is the act of observation. Then there is the observer. Merging all three of these is yoga. The observed, which is a subjective observation, the act of observing, which is the act of observation, and the observer, which is the objective observer. The minute you can observe something, it cannot be you. The minute you can experience something, it cannot be you. So, therefore, this merging of the subject and the object, this creation of this union, this creation of this non duality or Advaita, this merging of Shiva Shakti, the merging of polarities, whatever you want to call it, enlightenment, nirvana, emancipation, so many words around it, is yoga. Yoga is a moksha shastra, liberation science. So, further to answer your question, of course, it is a myth that practicing yoga will always keep me calm. No. You might practice yoga and not be calm. You might not practice yoga and you might be calm. As long as you retain things as a practice, it's going to change your internal state. For me, the message I'm giving out is yoga is not just a practice, it is a state. It is a way of changing your internal dimensions so that you can live a more exuberant, fulfilled, happy, vital, vivacious life. And if the practices you're doing is not making you happier, more vital, more vivacious, more ecstatic, then why are you even doing those practices? Why are you suffering to delay your joy? Don't. Stop it right now. Drop it. Find a practice that gives you joy.
Absolutely agree with that. I say that to anyone that would say to me, I tried a yoga class, I didn't really enjoy it. Okay, so you don't have to do it. Again, it's not
They,
forced upon
the minute
anyone.
it's a class, they didn't try a yoga class. They tried a asana class. Asana means posture.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
that's the thing, right? Many yoga schools, the biggest myth is that if you sit in a certain way, you will reach a certain state of mind. Not for everybody. Some people can reach a state of that mind even when they're moving. Some people, no matter how much they sit, they will not reach that state of mind. So you have to figure out what works for you. Does movement work for you? Does sitting work for you? Does body postures work for you and doing asana work for you? Or does going internal and dhyana, dharana, japa, tapa work for you? Or none of this work for you, maybe bhakti works for you. Figure out. How can you destroy the illusion between observed and observer? The illusion between experiencer and experienced? However, you can destroy that illusion, go for that path. And everybody has destroyed this illusion at some time in their life. Maybe while watching a beautiful sunset, maybe while dancing, maybe while singing, maybe while writing a love letter, maybe while making love, maybe while cooking, where the merging between who you think you are and who you are happens. You no longer remember your name, your nationality, your caste, creed, race, color. You don't remember your past worries. You don't remember your future troubles. You just exist. And this is called existing in the here and now. And nowadays it's like trendy. Yeah, let's be in the here and now. It's impossible. These are fleeting moments of the here and now. But those moments are enough to show you a glimpse of what is possible. As a yogi, we don't want to leave it to chance for these moments to come to us. So we train the spirit, the mind, the body, everything, so that we can recreate these moments anytime we desire.
Lovely. I love that. So you said as a yogi. Who is a yogi? Are you a yogi? Can anyone be a yogi?
I will go into one more interesting definition of yoga.
Okay.
One of the root words that yoga comes from is the word yogyata, which means worthiness. Somebody who is unworthy, even today in many Indian languages, is called ayogi, unworthy, or ayogya, unworthy person. And their unworthiness is called ayogyata. So yoga in this context, in this through this lens, can be defined as the science of self-worth. So a yogi is somebody who has yogya and yogyata, worthiness or self-worth. And that is another definition of yoga. And what does self-worth really mean? Is to recognize that you are neither lesser than anybody else or you're not greater than anybody else. Therefore, you don't seek either appreciation or insult doesn't trouble you. You don't seek validation. At the same time, gratification doesn't trouble you. You are pretty much neutral. And Patanjali explained this beautifully in the Yoga Sutras as Yogasya Chitta Vritti Nirodha, the cessation of this fluctuation between the extremities is yoga. A sense of neutrality, a sense of equilibrium, of equanimity.
Wow, that's so interesting. And I would say that's actually ironic because people try to be the best at yoga. And I've heard many people say, I'm not good enough at it, or I know someone who's really good at yoga. And yet the essence is actually the opposite. It's not about being the best and making sure you have the best posture. And to be honest, I'm guilty of that. I've posted photos of myself in a posture and I'm feeling that I'm so good at yoga now. I've done it for so many years, and actually the whole point of it is to not think that way and actually think outside of that. So it's
See, as
interesting.
a human, it's difficult to not think that way. So don't beat yourself up about it. Just recognize that any subjective, relative, adjective, anything that's good, bad, tall, short, fat, thin, is all relative. So my teacher used to say, be like the mountain. The mountain never says, I'm a tall mountain. The mountain just is. Only we give it this definition, tall mountain, short mountain. Only we say beautiful flower. Only we say, green tree. The tree never thinks I'm a green tree. So in yoga, you go back to your natural state without these definitions, without these adjectives, without anything that's relative or subjective. And you reach the objective truth to discover who you really are in your essence, beyond all the constructs and the narratives and the stories that we have accumulated through religion, society, education, caste, creed, and social media.
Wow, there's a real sense of freedom there. I feel like yoga is about this freedom from all of that.
Yes and no, because what do you want to get free from?
Everything.
Well, if an interesting exercise would be to observe who is the one who wants to get free. And when you start observing that, you realize the one who wants to get free already is free. It's only the projection, the experiencer is already free. It's only the experienced that you illusionary have an idea that it's not free. So freedom is already yours. So is abundance, so is joy, so is happiness, so is pleasure, so is peace, so is all the things that you desire. It's already yours. You just maybe forgotten. You just need to remember. So this jail that people put themselves in, that's exactly what they're doing. They put themselves in it by these constructs and narratives and stories. So in a way, yes, it is freedom to get rid of these narratives and stories, but in a way it's not, because the essence of who you are, yourself, and that's why yoga is also called the science of self-realization, is already free. It's like a drop of water in the ocean saying, I want to be an ocean. The drop of water is already the ocean. I want to be free, like the water in the ocean. This is what you're saying.
Wow, very, very interesting. And I guess I have tried different types of yoga, and many people will say I have tried hatha, ashtanga, kundalini. There seem to be so many different labels given to types of asana practice.
I'm glad you corrected yourself just now.
I did. I learned from earlier in this conversation. Is one more suitable than another? Should someone try all of these? I have personally gone out there and tried all of them. But is
See,
that
there are different teachers and different lineages who propounded the truths in their own way. Even today, every week, every month, there's new systems coming out where new teachers are finding the truth and coming out with their system. There's also some ridiculous systems like beer yoga, goat yoga, wine yoga coming out. There's also other fun stuff like eye yoga, nose yoga, face yoga, ear yoga coming out. So you have to figure out what works for you and deploy that, right? So neither system is good or bad. If you go to an Iyengar yoga practitioner, he'll say his is the best. Shivananda practitioner will say his is the best. Bihar School of Yoga will say his is the best. Ashtangi will say mine is the best. That's okay. But any of these masters didn't say theirs is the best. They taught what they practiced, what they knew, how they envisioned yoga. So none of these visions of yoga are wrong, but here's an interesting historical fact. It was only about 200 years ago when Krishnamacharya codified yoga asanas process that asana became so much of a prominence in the yoga world. Before that, asanas were not given prominence. Even in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, if I'm not wrong, there's only 12 or 18 asanas. Patanjali lists out only three asanas: Shavasana, Sukhasana, Padmasana, in his entire Yoga Sutras. In the Yoga Vashishta also, there's maybe only 22 asanas. So, asanas came into the yogic kind of worldview because at that time, Krishnamacharya was training the warriors of the king of Mysore. And all these people we mentioned, B.K.S. Iyengar, Patabi Joyce, they're all students of Krishnamacharya. So was my grandfather. And so when he created a yoga system filled with asanas, which by the way was borrowed from Russian gymnastics and European calisthenics, nothing Indian about it,
Wow.
then his students also followed in the same way. Then an amazing student of his called Indira Devi took it to the United States, which is why many people think yoga started in Hollywood.
Yes. And you get things like Bikram yoga, the hot yoga studios, all of this really popped up in the US as well and
Yeah,
became very.
yeah, yeah, because some of the countries are cold. Now, I'm always asking people in a hot country like Dubai or in a tropical place like Kerala, why do you need to do hot yoga? Just go outside, you will sweat. But in a cold country, if you want to heat up the body, there is some science behind there. Just like why would they would go to a sauna in a cold country and you wouldn't go to it in a hot country. It's the same logic there.
Very interesting. Yes, being in the UK, that's where I started at a hot Bikram yoga because it was freezing and that was my first experience. It was very,
Maybe he
very.
just called it that because, he liked all the nice looking people who came to his yoga class and they were hot. So let's call it hot Bikram yoga. I don't know. Don't get me in trouble if anybody's watching. I've never attended and I don't follow the lineage. I don't know honestly why it's called hot Bikram yoga. Maybe because of the room temperature. But to me, it doesn't make sense if you're living in a hot country to put yourself in a heated room to do some asana postures. If you do it outdoors, you will feel warm anyway. I have friends in Dubai who own hot yoga studios, and I'm always like, why?
Yeah, definitely. It gets
Yes, of
too
course,
hot.
yoga has been commercialized today. Yoga is a business like any other business. And what's wrong in that? I mean, at the end of the day, if somebody is adding value to somebody and that person is ready to pay this person, that's okay. But in its essence, it's an individual journey. It's a journey of you figuring out who you are, you having this self realization or these moksha moments or these moments of transcendence where you go beyond these identities that you've accumulated. You go beyond these narratives that you've set to yourself and all the stories that you're living with, all the adjectives, all the differentiation. For those moments, it's worth it. And you can find any way to get into those moments, even if it's hot yoga or bear yoga or goat yoga. Traditionalists will laugh at this and look down upon it, and modernists will look at the traditionalists and say what you're doing is outdated. But this is again a debate of Maya, of illusion, of mine is better than yours.
Yes, it is all an illusion. Is everything an illusion? Is life just an illusion?
The one who observes everything as an illusion cannot be an illusion. So that is why, again, I'm saying the observer, the experiencer is who you are. And yoga is the science of finding that out in a very practical, applicable, modern day way. That's the reason why yoga still has survived. And you asked me, is it from India? That's the reason why this science has survived because the other sciences from the other parts of the world kind of stopped becoming applicable or relevant to modern day issues. Whereas yoga went to the essence of it. He said, the minute you can create this distance between everything happening to you, and I will teach you how to create this distance, then you have no more problems. You only have freedom. So
Okay.
yoga is a study of expression and going within to change the expression of everything within you. How are my thoughts being expressed? How are my feelings being expressed? How are my words being expressed? How is my body being expressed? And even at the genetic level, how is my genetics being expressed? How is my energy being expressed?
Mm.
And through that, is my expression an expression of vitality, of joy, of bliss, of happiness, of peace? Is my expression so fragrant and beautiful that it inspires others to find the same expression.
Beautiful.
It
I
is.
definitely feel inspired. Yes. Oh, it's incredible. And that
And as a
generic.
practical yogi, I prefer to simplify these concepts so
Mm,
that it's applicable in a modern day life. There is no point in holding on to all the traditional wisdom and the wisdom traditions and their practices without understanding its practical relevance in today's modern day urban living. Today,
mm,
nobody is going to go and live in a cave and sit down for many hours to figure out who they are. You got to do it while you're in the conference room, while you're in the traffic jam, while your boss is acting mean to you. You got to figure out who you are. And
exactly.
yoga gives you the tools for that.
Definitely. So when you teach it, do you say you're teaching a specific type of yoga, or would you just say we are practicing yoga?
I told you I'm a practical yogi, but I'm also a cheeky yogi. Yoga cannot be taught. Can you teach somebody how to blink their eyes? Can you teach somebody how to breathe? You can help them to breathe properly, but basic breath. Can you teach somebody to swallow? So therefore you will ask, is yoga something natural? Is meditation something natural which cannot be taught? So I never say I'm a yoga teacher because I cannot teach yoga. I can teach asana. I can teach pranayama. I can teach dhyana. I can teach dharana. I can't teach yoga. I can only be in yoga, so it inspires everybody around me to also ask me, hey, what's happening with you? Say, I'm in yoga. How did you get there? Oh, I did all these things. You can also do them. So, no, I cannot teach yoga. Are you an asana teacher?
Mm,
Because if you're a yoga teacher, then you know that you cannot be teaching yoga. You can share the philosophy, you can share the concepts, you can talk about the books, you can talk about different ways of reaching this state. You can't teach the state. You can only teach the practices.
mm,
So, again, going from that verb of what yoga is to the state of yoga is very important journey in every yoga teacher's life. So, I request every yoga teacher watching this to evaluate. Are you a yoga teacher? Are you asana teacher? If you're a yoga teacher, are you really teaching yoga? Or are you teaching the tools so somebody can reach yoga? And that's why in Sanskrit there's beautiful words for teacher. There's adhyapak, there's shikshak, there is upadhyay, there is pandit, there is guru. These are different levels of education imparting people.
it's very,
Teacher is just one word in English, when Sanskrit has so many words.
yeah, it's very, very interesting.
Next episode, we will discover the different words for teacher in Sanskrit.
Yes. I feel like I can take a lot of what we discussed and turn it into a whole episode by itself.
Yeah, that's the idea. So, because I think we're already 40 minutes into this, I think let's wind up by saying we would love to answer your questions. We hope to keep this on. You probably watch this later. So, thank you so much for watching episode 1 of Ask Anjaan. And thank you, Shruti, so much for asking me such nice, well articulated, well thought of questions.
Thank you for answering them all. I'm so grateful. I now have more questions than ever, so I will save them. But yes, everyone, please send in your questions so I can ask Anjan for the next one. Be very grateful.
Please subscribe, like, notification so that you know when we go live. We're going to aim to do this at least once in a week. And you can follow Shruti and me on Instagram. We'll leave it in the description below.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.